Welcome to ANEC Sports' coverage of the girls basketball offseason series. My name is Sam Frick. I'm the founder and editor at Around the Northeast Corner, covering schools across Northeast Indiana and Elkhart County. That includes the ACAC, the NECC, and the Northeast 8. We continue looking at the ACAC by looking at Adams Central, who also lost in the first night of the girls basketball sectionals at the hands of Bishop Lures. Now, Adams Central going into this season, talking about 24-25, having a new coach. Kyle Rowe stepped down at Adams Central to take the boys basketball coaching position at South Adams as their head coach. Then comes Rob Earl. Rob Earl apparently has had some experience of coaching basketball before this season, and Rob Earl joined the program as their head girls basketball coach. They also had to replace some pretty good players, pretty good athletes, I would say, for the Jets. A pretty decent senior class, not a great basketball class by any means, but still a good class in terms of athleticism. Athena Schwartz, known profoundly from her softball career as a catcher. Obviously, she's doing quite well at her collegiate career in the state of Ohio. And she is in her first year of collegiate athletics for University of Northwestern Ohio for the Racers. And then you also had Grace Fisher, who graduated in 2024. So obviously coming in, you knew you had something with Ava Stafford for the Jets. She was a leading scorer, averaging 10 points per game as a sophomore, but we didn't know exactly, how much this team was going to be able to improve. Are they going to be better than last year? Are they going to be worse? We didn't know Rob Earl's resume that much coming in. I think expectations for Adams Central were pretty low. I actually would say they were very low this past season. I would say, considering the fact they went 5-17 this past season, I would say the Jets, I'll be honest with you, I think they kind of overachieved a little bit, considering what the expectations were. And if you look at the early portions of their season, they did not look like a team that was going to win 5 games. So the fact they turned around that quickly really shows you just how much potential this program can have going into next season and beyond. They opened the season with a pretty tough slate of games. They played Northeastern on the road. That's a team that ended up winning 24 games, most wins in school history. Adams Central had no chance in that game. They lost by 50 points to Northeastern. Played Lakewood Park tough. They played Lakewood Park tough in that home opener against the Panthers. Lost by 14, but that was a closer game than what that score showed you. Ran into a buzzsaw in Fremont on the 16th at Fremont, November 16th. 3 days later, played Manchester on the road. They lost by 13 to a solid Squires program. Traveled to Blackford, got their first win of the season. Blackford, which is a rebuilding Blackford team, 49-23. Then they would go on to lose 5 consecutive games, beginning a loss to Belmont on November 26th, losing by 50, 73-23. They opened conference play against Southern Wells, showed some moments against Southern Wells, and then the Raiders kind of took it to them in the second half, and Southern Wells won 56-39, lost to Churubusco by a point at the hangar on December 3rd. December 7th, they traveled to Woodland, showed some fight in that game against Woodland, but in the end, the Warriors were just the better team in that game, 60-42. They also traveled to Jade County. Now, this was where I think Adams Central really started to believe in themselves a little bit, because up to that point, Adams Central kind of got blown out quite a few times before that game. Really, this is the game. The Jade County game was where the Jets really started to believe in themselves a little bit. And this was a game they led in portions of that game. I think they had a chance to even win that game. Jade County forced overtime. And eventually the Patriots prevailed in a 53-50 overtime win over Adams Central, avoiding a loss that, a Jade County would have lost their first game to Adams Central since like the mid-'80s. So obviously the Jets showcased a lot of confidence coming out of that game and really showed it against South Adams in a record-setting performance where they defeated their in-county rivals South Adams 55-39, where Ava Stafford set the school record for most threes in a game in the history of this program, where she drained 7 threes on 13 attempts, and she also had 30 points, which I believe is a career high now at Adams Central for her, as they defeated the South Adams Starfire. Stafford would go on to score 29 points on January the 30th in a loss to Blackhawk Christian, 61-57, right? And then they played Bluffton on the 21st. Obviously, that was not a good matchup at all for Adams Central. They ran into a really good Bluffton team, 70-33 Bluffton win. Played in a January tournament. They took 2 out of 3 in that tournament, defeating Blue River and the host Union City. They lost by 30 to Blackhawk Christian in their first meeting. They would meet again later in the season and only lose by 4 to Blackhawk Christian. Afterwards, they played Bishop Lures the first time in the regular season, lost to them by 26. That was to be expected, considering the athleticism of Lures, still quite strong even in a down season. Played Southern Wells in the ACAC tournament at Southern Wells. Showed a lot of moments where I think Adams Central had a chance to win that game. They led early on in that contest, but then Southern Wells had a fantastic third quarter before Adams Central had a great fourth quarter to cut into that deficit. Had a chance to win that game, just couldn't make enough baskets in the end, and Southern Wells held on for a 46-41 win at the Raider Dome. They would go to Heritage nearly a week later, actually a week later, I should say, and defeated Heritage 51-17. That would prove to be their last win of the season, to which they would end up losing their final 4 games at the hands of Concordia, Marion, Blackhawk Christian, and Lures. But I will say the Marion Blackhawk games were pretty competitive games, only losing by 8 to Marion and then by 4 to Blackhawk Christian. So now we get to the point of where we're talking about the Jets in terms of the players they have from that team. Obviously, we mentioned Ava Stafford had a great junior year season, the best she's ever looked on the basketball court, averaging 12.8 points per game, shot 36% from the floor, 28% from 3, 66% from the foul line, 5 rebounds, nearly 3 assists, over 2.5 steals per game. Really just a strong year for Ava Stafford. I've already talked about some of her individual performances, but still a great year for Ava Stafford. And then you have Kate Fisher, the junior wing for the Adams Central Jets, really emerged as a breakout player for the Jets after only scoring 5 points per game in her sophomore year. She averaged 11.2 points per game in her junior year. She shot 34% from the floor, 37% from 3, 68% from the foul line, 3.6 rebounds, nearly assists per game, nearly 2 steals per game for Kate Fisher. And much like Ava Stafford, she had some moments in individual games where she really just kind of took off. And she kind of went off in some of those games. You know, she had that win against Blue River, where she had 24 points in that contest and drained 6 threes. So again, another great performance right there from downtown. You also look back and you look at the 18-point performance against Blackford, where she went 4 of 8 from deep, 18 points. You also have the 22-point performance against Jay County in defeat. She was 6 of 15 from downtown. Again, another fantastic game from her. 13 at South Adams, 15 against Bluffton. So she was kind of one of the positives in that loss to Bluffton. So there's a lot of things you can take from Adams Central. 5-17, you think it's not a great season, and it's not a great season statistically, but still, you have to feel very good about where this team looks right now, as opposed to maybe where it was at the start of the season. There was a little bit of a less than optimistic approach going into the season. I think you have to feel more optimistic going into next season if you're Rob Earl and that program. Also, when you look at this roster as a whole, one of the pros for Adams Central coming back is they're going to bring back a ton of experience from this team. They got some freshmen that are going to be playing some significant minutes moving forward, like Callie Dalrymple, right? That's another one right there. You got a sophomore that's going to be a junior in Mila Ellenberger, right? You got, looking at some other players in that roster, Obviously, Ellie Odd will graduate with her 5 points per game, but you got Tenley Hendricks. Here's a kid right there as another point guard. Could potentially emerge and improve her game next season as well. So you've got players that have multiple years left that can still grow in the years to come. Hendricks finished 4th in scoring, by the way, at 4.4 points per game. You also have number 4 for their team in Lila Rayner. Didn't play a huge role this past season, but she's got more to show for the Jets this season. A lot of guards that I think have potential to do something pretty good in the next couple years to come. And this is a team that should be able to shoot the 3 ball decently well. 27% for 3. They do take quite a few threes. But you look at the 2 players that are coming back. Their leading 3-point shooters are Fisher and Stafford. They have 96 of their 122 threes this past season. Stafford shot 28%. Fisher's at 37%. So you have something there with those 2 players. Obviously, when it comes to Adams Central, they're not a particularly huge team by any stretch of the imagination. They still grab 23.5 rebounds per game. Still pretty good number for them. 9.7 assists. I think they have more to show there. 11.3 steals per game. Really showed a lot of grit this past season. I know the defensive numbers didn't always reflect on that, but they showed a lot of grit, a lot of heart. They really were a tough team to play against. I thought Coach Earl's staff did a really good job of implementing a game plan that best fit the mindsets and the athleticism of the Jets players, so that moving forward, you can start seeing that confidence being built for the Jets. They were kind of already building some of that toughness beforehand, but now you're starting to see some confidence with this team that maybe by this time next season, we're talking about an Adams Central team that potentially competes for a winning season. Maybe they finish higher in the conference standings. Maybe they become more of a threat in the sectional. There's a lot that Adams Central can show for next season to at least build momentum for future success at Adams Central. Another thing to consider here too is Adams Central is starting to find success at the middle school level. And that's something you don't always see with Adams Central. Historically, the Jets have struggled with girls basketball. Aside from the 20-some years when Coach Blake was at Adams Central. And for those that don't understand who I am referring to at Adams Central, I'm referring to Kerry Blake. Kerry Blake, he is a former Hall of Fame head coach for Adams Central when he came to as assistant coach for football, head girls basketball coach for about 20 years, coached softball for many years, led them to multiple state finals appearances. That was the one time, other than the 4-year run under Doug Curtis, that was the one time where Adams Central was really strong in terms of their consistency and the potential that program had. And for the first time, really in a while, really since the Doug Curtis years, you're seeing a future that looks pretty bright for the Adams Central Flying Jets. I mean, this is a school that historically is not known for being a great girls basketball program. They have had many struggles over the years. And trust me, I am being very generous when I say that. Especially before the Kerry Blake years. Definitely were a dark time for the program. But you're seeing a team with a potential, a team with a sense of future. There's a sense of pride with this program. And now you're starting to see the successes of the feeder system coming in. For instance, their 7th grade girls basketball team won the Randolph Southern Tournament, right? As well as winning the ACAC. So if you're looking at a long-term plan, you have to be telling yourself, man, Adams Central really does have a bright future ahead for this program. And maybe we won't see the successes right now, but I think the seeds are starting to be planted for beautiful years to come. Maybe we won't see it necessarily as much right now, but maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the road, we're looking back. We might look back at this season, look back to the years of building this program up and saying, hey, here's what this program has built. And here are the rewards of building that program. So, again, because Adams Central is a small school, it's not guaranteed to have successful teams, but it's happened before, right? You've looked back at Adams Central's recent history, dating back to when Doug Curtis took over the program in 2018. Keep in mind, this was a program that prior to Doug Curtis coming in, they were a program that was just struggling to find any success. I mean, they only won 2 games in 2016-17. 2 years later, they win 14 games under Doug Curtis. Obviously, they had some pretty good players on that team to help complement Doug Curtis's vision for the team. And they made it to the sectional finals, lost by 8 points to Bluffton. And then you had the 2020 campaign. They made it to the ACAC tournament finals, lost to Woodland, but they won the sectional against Bluffton. Played a regional game in 2020. 2021, they went 14-11. Nice team that year. Played tough against Eastside in the sectional. Made it to the ACAC tournament championship game. Fell to Jay County by 4 points. 21-22, their last season under Dirk Curtis. 9-13. Right there in the thick of things in some games. Still competitive in the sectional. Obviously, by that point, Adams Central was definitely on their way to a rebuild. Kyle Rowe, all things considered, did a pretty good job with those 2 rebuilding seasons at Adams Central. They were competitive both years, winning 7 and 6 games respectively. And while they didn't win as many games this year, only 5 wins, I will say I think Rob Earl did a good job considering the expectations for Adams Central were very low. So, there's obviously room to grow if you're the Jets, but obviously you're seeing potential of what they could be in the years to come. And again, maybe the success doesn't come right away. Maybe they still have some struggles next season, but I think there is still potential for Adams Central to still have a decent team. Maybe they can get close to 10 wins next season. Maybe they compete for that 3rd or 4th spot in the ACAC standings. And maybe we see the Jets as a team that becomes more of a challenge for the conference next season. I think they showed at times that they can play with any team in the conference. Can they do that for 4 quarters? I think that's a real question. Can they take care of the basketball consistently? I think that's going to be a question. Can they defend the rim better? Again, that remains to be seen there. And what does the freshman class, now soon to be a sophomore class, what do they bring to the table next year? I think you got a future ahead for the Jets. And I think over these next couple years, I think the fans at Adams Central should be excited about the youth movement coming up with the Jets, the success coming from the feeder system, and what this team could look like next season.